Hello and welcome to Noblesse Wednesday, or it will be Thursday when you guys get hold of this video, depending on where you are in the world, of course. Before I start going into our second episode, which I think was a lot better than our open, just gonna let you guys know that Noblesse's head is on the line. It's on the chopping block, and it's down to you guys essentially to change my mind whether I drop it after reviewing the first 3 episodes. I will be fair. I will give it the 3 episode chance. Kind of decided that with the open being mediocre. So the open wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just an okay open for me. I don't exactly want to be unenthusiastic when I record. I want you guys to tune in to somebody who's enthusiastic about what they're talking about. I am giving it to the count of 3. This episode was a lot better, so I've got some nice moments to talk about this second episode. So with you guys, I need you guys essentially to just like the video so I can see that there's at least somebody who wants me to continue. So you guys are going to be the ones who change my mind about stopping the airing. I won't stop watching. I'm going to continue watching the anime because I'm hooked now. I'm a fan anyway. But you guys are the ones who decide whether I continue reviewing. Do I continue releasing videos each week on YouTube for you guys to kind of tune in with? If you pop in a like on the video if you want me to continue. Let's continue now. Let's continue. I do think this episode was much better. Title was A Reason to Fight / Nobility. The open starts with the 2 that we saw from the final scene. These 2 we find out are Regis and Sierra. And they are also the same. They're similar to Raz in the sense that they are nobles or nobles. So this episode's quite good because we start to get some groundwork. We start to get some information. It starts with these guys freezing time, so we can start to see some of those powers already in action. And they enter the crime scene. So we've heard about this crime scene already. That's apparently the cover story was that a nut job went crazy. He had explosives and he committed suicide. These 2 are after the culprit. They also believe that the humans are incapable of handling it. Although that's kind of more they're after what the guy had or what was taken. But we can talk about that a bit more when they discuss it later. Let's now go to the first scene. A little quick scene of Tashiro being late. I called him you last episode. I'm not sure if I want to call him Tashiro or you. Yu's quite cool, but Tashiro's a good name. Maybe we'll stick with Tashiro this episode anyway. We kind of see him being the roadrunner, being late, and dashing past Silver to make it to the class. When Silver sees 2 new students, and it's the same 2 from before. So Regis and Sierra are now here, and they demand to see the person in charge, aka Frankenstein. It turns out that these 2 have transferred to this school. As they are discussing this with Franken says, I'm just going to send a quick message. That's when we see that Raz gets the message of him obviously asking, is this okay? What do we do about this? The new students introduce themselves as Regis Sierra. The girls in this class are just so obsessed with all the hot guys that come into the class. All the girls are obsessed with Regis. I don't think he's that good looking. I'm sorry. I think she's prettier than him by miles. Manabu also would agree with me. He would also say that Sierra is definitely the prettier one of the 2. To be fair, Manabu this episode is kind of out of commission. He is literally head over heels for Sierra. Tashiro sees this. He comments on why so many foreigners coming into our class, and then he gets dumped with the duty of showing the 2 around. And this kind of makes him the target of immediate jealousy within the class. We see Regis and Sierra spotting Raziel. They can sense his aura. And that kind of cuts to a very awkward lunchtime scene, guys. Let's cut to lunchtime. However, I'm going to say right here, right now, Clockwork Dandy Noodles is definitely given the seal of approval this week. Raziel being the ramen fan that he is, me being Clockwork Dandy Noodles, seal of approval, ramen is amazing. However, I do say the egg that they're eating is a fried egg, but normally with ramen, it's spoiled eggs, which are cut in half and you get that gorgeous runny yolk. Don't quite get that with this. Regis tries to show off some chopstick skills, but then he breaks them literally in half, but they are wonky. And in Japan, if you get a wonky or you break them and you get a chunk missing and they're not equal, it's kind of a bad sign of bad luck. So I've always tried to master the art of trying to get them perfectly in the middle and make sure that they're equal. This guy is worse than my own mother when it comes to chopsticks. And she's bad. She will literally stab chicken with the chopsticks. This guy is just awkward. He's holding them horrible and he kind of gets a noodle by luck. And then we kind of just see the god that is Raziel. And I want them to go into this joke. I just don't get it. But he just doesn't eat because he's waiting for it to multiply. I need this anime to tell me what the hell this joke is. So hopefully that's not just going to be a running gag and we never find out what it is. Malibu, just again, out of commission. He's gone. He's like cuckoo for Sierra. He's probably wasting good food as well. So Toshiro decides that he wants to play Cupid. I don't think it's a good idea. Really don't think it's a good idea. We get a scene now where Frankenstein's about to give us a info dump. Prepare for your info dump because I think this is very important. Frankenstein and Silver, bear in mind Silver is M21. I am giving him a name because to me, he deserves a name. I don't want to call him M21. That's his experiment name. I don't really feel comfortable calling him that. Plus, later on, Regis does the thing of calling him a monster, and I hate that. I really don't like that. So we're calling him Silver. I think it fits him. I think it's a graceful name, so he's staying with it, I'm afraid. It turns out that it was Raziel's decision to let the two be in his own class. I kind of think it's more a keeping your enemies closer, where he's keeping an eye on them. If they're in a different class, you don't know what they're up to. So having them in the same class is probably a good thing because you can keep an eye on what the two are up to. Silver asks, who are they? And then we hear the word Noblesse, which is, of course, if you've noticed, the title of the series. So the Union is looking for these Noblesse. And we quickly get a cut to a coffin being pulled out of the ocean. I think you guys can probably start adding up one on one. Start putting these clues together. Silver starts to grill Franking a bit more. And in the background, you kind of see this very, I want to say it's subtle, but I think it's quite in your face that we see an advertisement board for the Noble choice. So I think the advert itself is about dream homes, but it says Noble on it. So they're kind of flashing up this word now, giving us the answers as well whilst we're getting this info dump. So it turns out that these Noblesse, aka these nobles, before science and humans were perilous, they were scared of nature, they were weak, they were powerless. They met these beings with supreme power, which are your Noblesse or your nobles. And the humans started to rely on these guys, seeking out their protection. Just a quick side note, the castle you see here is Bran Castle. I have been to Bran Castle because, as we know, this channel was a travel channel. I might even have the video up of when I went to Romania and I went to this castle. So maybe I'll link it if I'm feeling daring. This castle you might know as Dracula's castle, or it is, but it isn't. Vlad never actually his actual castle is technically Hunadora. That was actually his, but everyone thinks Bran Castle is his home because of Bram Stoker and because of the books, which isn't quite true. He definitely was there at some point, but he didn't live there. That wasn't his castle. For that, you need to go to Hunadora, which I thought was a nice little sidetrack, and plus I love giving you guys info dumps when I can. Turns out that these beings decided to help the humans out, and they decided that it was their duty and their pride to protect these who are weaker than themselves. So they take pride in looking after the weaklings as it's their duty. We then get a flashback to, this is what everything's kind of been building up from. We saw last week that Toshiro had a broken arm, and I even said I bet that's down to the accident or the incident that we keep referring to. Last week we even saw Frankenstein looking at the cover story being that a guy had explosives, he committed suicide and went on a rampage in this building. However, we find out that Raziel used his powers to put the students to sleep, and he was saving them from this giant monster. And he manages to defeat the monster. That then cuts back, us talking about nobles again. So the nobles regard the humans as the people they need to protect. These two we see here, I don't think they're going to be harming our students. However, obviously, if you're not a human and you're not weaker than a noble, you're kind of posing a threat. So the nobles are equals the noblesse. That's why Franken even says, I think the two didn't get violent with me because they thought I was a human. But we get the inference that he's not quite just an ordinary human being. Silver says, but that's what you two are, isn't it? He's inferring that Fran and Raziel are both nobles. However, Fran says you are both correct and incorrect, and that is where we end that little sequence. But that is quite a nice info dump. I definitely feel like I understand a little bit more of now what's going on. But again, we are building the story in small increments, so we're not getting too much at once, but it definitely helps. Let's go back to the Toshiro playing Cupid, that they are now having a party at Franken's. We need to have a moment of silence for Franken's sanity, Franken's nerves. Rest in peace, Franken, by the end of this. I love Franken. I think Franken definitely stole this episode for me. These guys are trying to set up Malibu and Sierra. And then Franken comes in and he literally sees the mess of his house. He kind of does this grin and he's like, oh, just grin and bear it. And he goes to do the washing up. Silver tries to help him and he's kind of like, no, it's fine. I'll do it myself. And it's just face, this grimace. I love this face. He's like, I will protect this house and the master. And he starts to give off this purple death aura as he's washing the dishes. Probably the most angriest anyone's ever been whilst washing the dishes. I bet those dishes are awfully clean. Tashiro then decides to probably stick the knife even further into poor Fran. He says, what if Regis and Sierra stay with you guys? Because I asked them where they were staying and they said they hadn't settled yet, which is awful. And he says you're going to have Ray, you're going to have the guard dude. I like the fact that he's calling him the guard dude. Fran kind of looks like he's dead at this point. Rest in peace, Fran. He looks just dead. He spills the tea. It's like rest in peace. He's given up on life. He looks across at Ray and Ray's like, I don't mind. And then he's like, I don't mind. Rest in peace, Dad. I kind of feel like Franken is the dad of the group, and it's just kind of, that's it. He's dead now. Rest in peace. We get this nice little scene where Silver decides to help Franken with the dishes, and then Sierra comes in, and she offers to help, and she's kind of waved off, go to your room. And she catches a glimpse of the tattoo, which says 21. Silver's tattoo is because he was an experiment test subject, and he would have gained that number. Like we said, they weren't given names. They were nothing but numbers. So she sees that tattoo. The next day, Sierra tells Regis about this tattoo. She seems to know a lot about the Union. She says that she knows about the test subjects and the fact that Silver must belong to the Union. Regis refers to Silver as a man-made monster. And I hate that. I don't like it when people get called monsters. It kind of grinds my gears a little. I'm like, nope, I don't like you. So Regis, you're not on a good foot with me, I'm afraid. We can find out that the coffin they're looking for has disappeared. And I've even put a little comment. Are they referring to the situation we saw initially with Raz? So putting 2 and 2 together that Raz might have something to do with the coffin. We get a little bit of symbolism coming in where we see the two looking out for a window. However, we are looking in. So the guys look out of the window whilst we're on the other side of the glass looking in on them, just to show a bit of a divide. I think everybody watching my video here, you're all human, right? I think. We're all human. We're not nobles, sadly. So there's a bit of a divide amongst us. There's a divide with these two. These two do feel really cut off from all the other characters, and it's nice to show this divide. Regis then disappears to go and confront Silver. He says to Silver, I don't like a man like yourself who has abandoned your humanity to seize power. I'm not quite sure that's what Silver's done, Reggie, I'm afraid. I don't think it's Silver's choice to become a monster, as you put it. I feel like it's not really his choice to have been chosen as a test subject. I'm not quite sure I agree with that. Then we get a scene where Tashiro walks in on some more thugs. Whenever we see Tashiro, he's always been beaten up. Past 2 episodes, all we've seen on him is either he's being an idiot or he's being beaten up. They start to hit on Sierra and one pulls a knife on Ray. Regis and Silver now go into a little bit where the tension starts to build. He asks him about the events of the week. So he wants to know about the events that have transpired in the past month. Silver just does the same thing where he repeats the cover story, but Regis isn't happy with this. He knows that Silver was involved somehow. Silver asks him, why do you want to know? And then we kind of get the pair's motive. They are here to take what they stole, aka this coffin. But Silver says he's not considering that the possibility that the Noblesse has already awoken and already left that coffin. Me being a bit big brain here, knowing that nobles obviously they live a long time. Silver says, I don't know anything about the time that you came from. These nobles often living a long period of time. We can say that the coffin has obviously housed a noble, perhaps hinting that Raz might have something to do with this coffin. But at some point, I guess we will find out. Silver says that the people who took it are dead. And this is where it breaks into a fight. And we get to see some of Regis's powers with him being super strength, tossing Silver across the room. He doesn't really look phased or anything. To be fair, Silver doesn't look too phased, but he does seem to take a bit more of a beating in this. And then we can see that the two know telepathy, which is quite cool. Sierra is able to tell him that the situation at her end is getting worse. Where we break into the thugs surrounding Tashiro. It seems that these guys are connected to the guys that Tashiro beat up last week with the guy with his girlfriend situation, and they're here to settle the score. Breaking into a Tashiro fight again. Tashiro really can handle himself. I'm pretty impressed with some of his moves. However, as good as he is outnumbered. There is more thugs than there is Tashiro. He can't fight them all eventually, although they do seem to do the typical thing of fighting him one by one. They should kind of know that they should probably take this guy down as a whole. We can see Raz starting to itch a bit. He starts to kind of move, and it looks like he kind of wants to go in to help, but he can't. Where Regis and Silver then appear, but at the same time, Silver stops Regis from interfering. Silver then does a roll credits. I think Silver did the roll credits last week as well. He says humans can fight when they have a reason to fight, which roll credits is the title of this episode. Our thug pulling a gun, where Silver decides, screw it, you've pulled out a gun, I'm getting involved. He manages to apprehend the guy, and the thugs run off. We then go into everybody walking home, where we've got Regis and Silver. I think we can understand these guys just don't like each other. Regis says, humans are more savage from what I can remember. Get that line about not sure what it was like in your era, which definitely tells us that these guys have been around for quite some time. I guess it's safe to call them immortal in a sense. Silver says that it's only certain humans, but humans have definitely changed. The humans don't need your help anymore. They also don't entirely depend on your protection either. And that's when they go in to start threatening to kill each other, and they just argue, and that is our ending. A quick note that I do think the ED is better than the OP. It's growing a little bit on me. It's a very boring ending. There's nothing going on really to note, but the song is a little bit better. Let's go back into argument round 2 of Regis going, I'm never going to accept that you got a bigger room than me. And Silver going, it's okay, I'll trade. I don't mind. I don't want to be in debt to somebody like you. And then you just get that, I'll kill you in your sleep. And it's like, the person I feel sorry for the most is Franken. Just look at Franken. And he's like, I need to lighten the mood. And he just goes, what do we all want to eat? And then it's just the silence. And Clockwork Dandy Noodles approval. Round 2. Raz just goes, ramen. Just this gloom descends upon the room as everybody goes, again. I do believe we had overall a better episode than last week. Last week was just okay. I feel like I was expecting something more from an opening episode. I don't know why. It felt okay. It was an okay intro. This week was a bit better. I feel like we're getting a bit more flow. We're getting some story going on. I do believe this anime itself is going to be a bit of a slow burner. I think that was the title to last week's episode. It's definitely a slow burner. The story is slowly building. There's a lot going on. I don't have too much essentially to say right now. I'm learning with you guys. Obviously, I'm coming into this blind. There is some nice symbology going on. It's very subtle though. It's very lightly being mentioned here and there. And with the introduction of these 2 new characters, it's going to be interesting to see how the plot develops. Interesting to see that they're all being placed in the same house as each other. It's difficult to kind of get away from each other. But it's also very interesting to learn that the nobles, or the noblesse, are protecting the humans. The humans aren't really at threat from these guys. These guys aren't about to go and attack the students. So that's probably why, part of the reason why Raz kind of accepted them to transfer. They're not going to be going about murdering any of the students because their duty or their pride doesn't allow them to fight people who are weaker than themselves, and they consider humans weaker than them. We've got an interesting divide going on in this anime, which is starting to appear. Going to be interesting to see how they break that down, or the humans come out and surprise everybody and maybe changing their opinions. Let's hope that the 2 that we've met, Sierra and Ridge, just decide to change their opinions. Franken is probably my favourite character right now. I think I was a Raziel girl for the prequel, which I mentioned to you guys last episode. Franken, I'm watching you. You've got my interest. Going to be interesting to see him develop as well. I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm definitely going to be watching this throughout the entire season. I'm sticking with it. But at the same time, whether I continue releasing videos weekly is all down to whether you guys feel that I should, or if I can do it interesting enough. I just don't want to release a video where I sound unenthusiastic. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We're going to quickly run through the release for the channel. Make sure you are subscribed. It helps me out a lot. Monday, we have Golden Kamui. That is our comedy night. Come join us in. It is season 3, so if you haven't seen seasons 1 or 2, make sure you take some time, put it on your binge list. It is worth it. It is hilarious. It is funny. As a predecessor of JoJo, it's got that kind of humour and it's great. Tuesday is when we put on our detective hats. We break down Moriarty the Patriot. You guys loved Moriarty the Patriot, and that definitely has the most likes. That's not going nowhere. That stays for the entire season. Definitely got a lot of you guys interested. We break down symbolism, we break down some English history, a bit of Englishness going on, as obviously I live in England, so I felt like I could definitely put a bit of a flair on my breakdown there. Wednesday, we get Ikeburo Westgate Park in the morning. Noblesse takes its position normally later that day. However, Ikeburo Westgate Park was out yesterday because Moriarty didn't air this week. Friday is Journey of Elena, a hidden gem of the season, definitely worth checking out. That is that. So make sure you are subscribed. I appreciate every subscribe, and hoping that we can all nickname you guys the Noodlings or something. Everybody here is a noodle, a fellow noodle. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the continued support. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.